So previously when we talked about HTML, we talked about the difference between relative and absolute addressing. The distinction between the two is very similar in Excel. Remember that when we were filling before, it changed the value based on where you started and where you finished. So here it changed to C and here it changed to D. This was an address relative to where you started, so it was a relative address. And usually that's what you want, but that's not always what you want. And sometimes you're going to want to do an absolute address. And I'll show you an example of what that might look like here. If we started in A13, we could write a label that says tax. And then in B15, we could write a label that says a rate. If we had a tax rate of 0.05, and we wanted to figure out what the tax on these three values were, and place them in a tax box here, what we did before was we wrote equals B11 multiplied by B15. And that would place it here and give us 6.97, which is right. But if we filled this to the right, it'll be taking 75 by a blank box and getting 0, and same for here. And while we could fill this rate across to these two boxes, that's not what we want to do in this situation because that's not always going to be an option. So we're going to have a look at how an absolute address might work. So when you're doing an absolute address, Excel uses dollar signs to lock your reference to a specific cell or column based on where you place the dollar sign. So in this formula, we always want it to be looking at column B. So if we place a dollar sign in front of the column B, whenever we fill this now, it won't change off of the B column. But we also want it to stay in the 15th row. So we'll place another dollar sign in front of the 15. That won't change our answer here because this was already working properly, but if we fill this to the right now, you'll see that the B and the 15 never change, even though the value that didn't use the dollar signs does, because it's still going to fill that part relative. So if you ever want to always reference a specific row, column, or cell, you just simply need to put dollar signs in front of what you're referencing, and it will never change as you fill it.